Today I want to talk about two things. Let's call this Farris Fast Hacks number 2. Two things I wanted to talk about really are connected. First one is reading. I hope you do a lot of reading. Reading is really helpful, especially if you develop content for your websites, for your posts. You can't just do the reading that you see online and expect to get everything there is available as far as knowledge goes, especially when it comes to marketing, business, and the individuals that conducted and have created great things. Usually there's a memoir or a biography that is very helpful. I read a couple books a month. I don't expect everybody to do that, but I find it very helpful, and I find it relaxing, enjoyable, and most of all, I think it helps from a creative or development standpoint. It's been said that to be a great writer, you should be a great reader. And I firmly believe that. You learn so much from books. I personally prefer to use paper to read books instead of online because, I read online all day long. I'm viewing screens all day long, probably like you. Phone, iPad, computer screen, TV screens, all day long I'm looking at screens. So when I read something important, I like to read it on paper if it's a memoir or something in depth. Now, sometimes I'll just get one point out of a business book, and that's fine. If I get 1 point out of a $25 book, it's worth it to me, and I'm sure it'll be worth it to you. And I actually keep those books on my desk. I'll show you my office one time. I keep those books nearby, behind my desk, around my desk, so that just looking at the cover of that book, it usually sparks an idea. So I highly recommend that. As you can see, we've got some traffic going by in our local park here. It's a terrific park, Mill Creek Park. So let's talk today about the second part of that, reading, and that is I want to talk about the book that I just picked up because I think it's a fascinating subject, because it's a memoir from Phil Knight. Phil Knight is the CEO and founder of Nike. Of course, you know who Nike is. And his story is pretty interesting. I just started reading it. I'll fill you in once I have read it. But his book is called Shoe Dog. And you can see the famous Nike swoosh and icon there that everybody recognizes around the world. Is extremely well known and extremely recognizable. But I just thought, before I share anything about Phil Knight, I wonder if you know the backstory for the tagline, "Just Do It." That was actually created in 1988 by the ad agency Wieden & Kennedy, which was Nike's ad agency since founding, I believe, or for a long time. And Dan Wieden from Wieden & Kennedy came up with that line, "Just Do It." And he says he was inspired by, believe it or not, the murderer Gary Gilmore. Gary Gilmore was a murderer in Utah who was actually executed by firing squad. I don't know if they still do that in Utah or how they kill people, or if they still do or execute them, but he was executed by firing squad, and they asked him his last words, and his last words were, "Let's do it." Somehow 11 years later, in 1988, Dan Wieden suggested that to Phil Knight at Nike, and he liked it, and it stuck. Clearly it stuck because we know it, everybody knows it. So it's on every other shirt practically. But anyhow, that's kind of the backstory of the tagline, which I thought is interesting, and so many people know. But it's interesting. Phil Knight built such an empire from basically he started with $8,000 a year in sales. He imported Japanese shoes, athletic shoes. Nobody was really supplying the market. Phil Knight was a runner all his life. And was a runner in college as well, and he felt that was a market that was underdeveloped. He had a coach that said footwear for athletes is something that is real important. So he pursued that line of Tiger shoes in Japan and followed up with that 8,000 sales in the first year. I think you know now, or may know, they're at $30 billion a year in sales. So Phil Knight has done well. I'm sure he has an interesting story. I'm going to read it, and I'll share it with you. And I want to encourage you to read it yourself. And if you see a book and wondering if you should read it, I would suggest you just do it. Hey, you knew that was coming, right?